that's not gun safety. Our guns are here. We have over 450 million guns in this country. There's 110 million lawful, responsible gun owners out there. And so we're not the problem here. We just need to coexist. And the powers that be would need to just kind of try something new. And that's my biggest thing here is we have something that we can invest in right now that would save more lives than anything that Everytown would ever propose.
Hey, is there a better tool that empowers a woman to defend against an attacker that's 100 pounds bigger?
Nope.
That's why it's so important for women to learn how to defend themselves with the most effective self-defense tool ever invented. For women led by women, the Not Me program is designed to help with training, purchasing a gun, and getting a concealed carry permit. And it's free. Sign up, go to notmesd.org. Go to notmesd.org.
All right. So up next, we have a guest on the line. We have Derek LeBlanc. Derek, are you there with us?
I am. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. So, Derek, you are with a group called the Kids Safe Foundation. And I'd love just to start, if you wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit about that foundation, a little bit about your history and your background, please.
Okay, so the Kids Safe Foundation, we're a 501c3 nonprofit, and we're based in Oregon. And so we teach firearm safety and accident prevention to kids. And so we've been a nonprofit since 2016, and now we've reached over 28,000 kids in 5 states and taught them life-saving skills on what to do if they ever come across an unsecured firearm. And so, my journey to get here started, on one dark morning when I was put in a position where I needed a firearm to be able to defend myself. I didn't have one. And so it's from that experience that kind of put me on this path to where I am today.
So you said you're based out of Oregon. Do you travel, or are all your courses local to you?
We do. We used to be able to go into California. We used to go to Northern California to do some both some sportsman shows there. And that way we had a BB gun range. We could blow it up, and then we could teach safety to the kids. But unfortunately, because of new legislation, that has kept us out of California.
Talking about AB 2571?
Yes, I am.
I'm glad you don't have that up in Oregon. We're combating that here in California as best as we can. What is the, as far as when your experience, what is the policy that prevents advertising to youth and training and safety? How is that going to impact the youth? I know that you don't have that regulation up in Oregon, but we do here in California. What is your thoughts on how that's going to have an impact on the youth?
Well, I think it's extremely dangerous and negligent, to be honest with you, because when you take away the parents' ability to educate their kids about something that's really, really important, like firearm safety, and our kids are going to get information from, it could be social media, it could be TikTok, it could be stuff like YouTube, or it could be, violent video games, that's what's going to form their early opinions of firearms, and it's going to give them bad information.
Absolutely. I agree. Could not agree more. So your Kids Safe Foundation, tell me a little bit about the structure of your class. Like if I was to bring a child to you, one of my kids, and I bring them up to you, kind of describe to me what is the content, what does the class look like? Is it very interactive? Is it a lot of discussion? What does that look like? How does that learning given to those kids?
Absolutely. So typically our Kids Firearm Safety 1 classes, which we hold them probably the most frequent, it's a 1-hour class. It's in front of the whole entire family. So there's going to be information for the parents. There's also going to be information for the kids. And in this class, I actually have real guns. I handle the guns. I show the parents, the proper way to load and unload to make sure everybody's on the same page. But I also answer any kind of questions that the kids might have. And from this, I'm giving them good, relevant information about, different types of firearms, especially the modern sporting rifle. We talk about that heavily, and kind of defrag their little minds about, the truth and what's the real truth as opposed to what they might see in the media. And so this gives us the opportunity. We also talk about online safety, anti-bullying as part of our program. And so it's our goal is when these families leave our program. And another thing that's really, really important is we talk about secure storage. And obviously in Oregon, it is the law here that every gun is required to be, securely stored. But we think we don't need the government to tell us to do that. We just need to change our habits, which are going to help keep our kids safer, but also help protect our rights going forward.
So when you say that you talk about, and I love that you do this as a family dynamic, do you have a certain age range that either a cutoff or a recommended age that you put out there for people to start training their kids?
Well, I've had kids as young as 2 and 3 years old in the class because there's information for the parents. And, we typically start the kids about 4 years old with the accident prevention part of our program. And so that way we're giving the families good information. If there's stuff that the parents maybe haven't thought of, that's where we're kind of reinforcing these really important safety principles. And there's stuff that they can always quiz their kids about. So there's going to be takeaways from this class. And there's stuff, that's how our kids are going to learn is through repetition. And so there's stuff that's all we're trying to do is set these families on a path to safety. And it's working.
Absolutely. We had a really huge tragedy here in California, in Southern California, in Fallbrook. I'm not sure how familiar you are with that. Are you familiar with that at all? The Fallbrook incident here?
Yes,
Okay.
I read the press release and I read up on the story. I saw the news story. It's horrific. It's horrific.
So this was a 3-year-old, and you mentioned that you've had classes with children as young as 2. So there are opportunities, there are learning, there are ways to help introduce these concepts and these safety points. Now, the point of AB 2571 here in California is they claimed it was to protect the kids. And so it was measuring.
So is it working?
Right. So
no.
No. So the fact for those of you who or may not be familiar, or maybe you've blocked it because it's just so hard to hear. In Fallbrook, we had a 3-year-old, a toddler essentially, who got their hands on an unsecured firearm. We don't have a whole lot of details yet as to what the full circumstances were, but got a hold of that firearm and was able to discharge it and shoot their 1-year-old sibling. And and really, if anything, with youth that young, you start to put those seeds of safety, like you mentioned. That the idea of leave it, don't touch it. It's and those seeds are so critically important to implant. And do you have families that come to you and that kind of come back and for repeat lessons or learning? Is there a lot of repetition, or do you think that the class that you offer, the families are able to take it and to reinforce it at home? Do you find you have
absolutely? I mean, there's parents that come to us, once every year, just kind of as a refresher, and it's nice to see, the growth in the kids, and so they're more receptive and they feel more engaged in the class because they remember. And I get emails, I get messages all the time from parents that, this was their favorite class that they've ever taken, which is, it tells a lot that our messaging is on point because, we're not trying to push guns here. We're trying to push safety. And, safety is a byproduct of responsible gun ownerships. And that's how we're going to preserve our rights going forward in the future. And that's how we engage with the youth to make sure that, they're going to be the future stewards of our 2A rights.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So obviously you are going to agree with us on this, but I'm curious, give me a bit of the depth and maybe even some side shoots that we haven't thought of. What are some really downfalls that we're going to be seeing by prohibiting the advertisement of training to youth? Because AB 2571 that we have here in California doesn't prevent the training to youth, but it prevents the marketing and the ability for us trainers to be able to let parents know that these classes are available. We can still train them if they come to us, but they have to seek us out. So what are your thoughts as to how, how widespread is this impact going to have on us here?
Well, from we've been training down in there for, the previous, 4 to 5 years in Anderson, California. And what was kind of shocking to us is every year when we're down there is when we're talking about gun safety with the families, is there's a lot of families who don't think about gun safety with their kids. And the reason they don't do so is they're afraid of, Billy going to school and telling one of their friends, because, your laws are ever evolving. And so what something used to be legal like 3 to 4 years ago is now illegal because of a stroke of a pen. Well, the parents don't feel like educating the kids because now they're opening themselves up for legal action. And so I think, what's happening here is definitely detrimental to the health and safety of the kids of California. And it actually pushes the needle in a way that you don't want it to go when it comes to the safety of the kids. And so, I don't know if there's any legal challenges, but it's something that, the government shouldn't have the right to tell those parents how to educate their kids, especially when it comes to something like firearm safety.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As far as a way to push back or legal recourse against it, that'd be a good Mike question. I'm not sure what our avenues might be or options could be there.
Yeah, I know there's I don't know exactly what's going on as far as formal challenging it, but it's not even a Second Amendment issue. It's a First Amendment at that point, that you're not allowing people to assemble and speak. Pretty sure that's protected. Those two things. I read that somewhere. I don't know.
Absolutely.
But it's pretty ridiculous, and we made the point. Now, you said you'd read the press release. Did you read our press release, or is that what you're talking about?
I did.
So what did you think of our press release and what the tone and things that we expressed?
Well, I like the tone. The one thing that, I saw the news story and the way they were talking about, criminal charges, which I get all that. But I think as a parent, that parent is already, living a life sentence without that child. And so while I get the rush to charge when it comes to law enforcement, all that stuff, the fact of the matter, this should be an awareness issue. This should be awareness where we should be talking about why it's important to secure that firearm. We should also be talking about why it's important to educate our kids. And, so that's nothing that was brought up in the media was gun safety education. One thing that was really concerning for me is how the media cited Everytown as an official source. I think that's a real problem for law-abiding citizens, because none of their information is reliable. It's all jaded. It's all got a slant to it, and it's not accurate. And so the sooner that we can say no and push back on that type of stuff, the better off we're going to be.
Well, the day after it happened, there was actually a county board meeting, the County Board of Supervisors, and it was brought up during a discussion. They were trying to push some more regulations and bureaucracy that they wanted to put in place that was all anti-gun. And they kept talking about, well, gee, this is why we need gun storage regulations. Well, there were two. There was a county in Fallbrook. They already have a county regulation that requires them to store firearms locked, and then there was a state regulation that. So it's not about the other side. It's not about accuracy. And it's not even about safety. This is about a political agenda and leveraging a horrible tragedy in order to advance that political agenda, which is really sad. But I definitely don't think enough people know that that their speech is being limited, that we're not allowed to say, hey, we want to teach your kids how to be safe around firearms. And I think that message, I don't care what political party you belong to, nobody likes their speech being regulated. So I think that angle is something that doesn't get talked about nearly enough.
Hey, a lot of companies waste an enormous amount of money on marketing, and the design is excellent. The photos are beautiful, and your website looks great, but it's just not getting customers. Why? Because you don't have the words that make people buy. But now you can fix that with Sage Tree. Sage Tree can help you find the words that make it easy for your customer to understand what you do and how to buy from you. Stop wasting money today and schedule a call. Getting started is real easy. Visit sagetree.com and click on the Schedule an Appointment button. That's sagetree.com and click on that Schedule a Call button now.
Hey, before we go back to our guest, I wanted to say hello to everybody that's watching us over what was formerly the app formerly known as Twitter. X. We are live streaming over X. So if you are someone who is on X, you can hear us live every Sunday from 4 to 6 there. And welcome to all our viewers there who are listening to us via X on formerly what was Twitter.
Yeah, they said it should have been XO. Get it? XO?
No, I don't get it.
When you do a nice gesture to a lady, XO.
Oh.
Kisses and hugs.
All right. Okay, excellent.
Moving right along.
Alicia.
Yes, sir.
Go for it.
Yeah.
So so we left off before the break.
Who are we talking to?
We were talking to Derek.
Okay.
Derek with Kids Safe Foundation about training youth in firearm safety, which I can't help but wonder, had this Fallbrook 3-year-old have taken a class like Derek's, what are the odds, right, that this could have ended differently? Instead of pushing for redundant, laws, storage things that we already have in place, instead maybe pushing for safety, instead of putting these roadblocks that make it more challenging and difficult for us to reach out, to reach these families and to reach these youth, to train them in those safety aspects. How could this have, this could have ended so differently? And so, so we left off talking with Derek. Derek, you still there?
I am.
Fantastic.
What is the age? Can I ask real quick? What's the youngest that you can reasonably tell folks that, hey, we can train your kid, and they could potentially effectively be safe if they ever run into a firearm. What is that minimum age?
Well, effectively, we could start as young as 4, and that's when we're going to give them little tools that are going to make sense to them, that our guns are not toys and that they're tools, and then we should treat them as such. And we can teach trigger discipline, muzzle discipline, all sorts of different things, and obviously what not to do, like similar to like the Eddie Eagle, which is stop, don't touch, run away, tell the grown up, stuff like that. What makes our program kind of unique is we actually follow up with live fire training for the kids. And so we typically, depending on the maturity of the kid, is we start them out about 6 or 7, and we start with rimfire rifles. And so that's another way to kind of reinforce the safety principles that we already taught them when it comes to the accident prevention program. And we get to use real guns. So that one's a lot of fun.
Yeah, Eddie the Eagle, we can't use him anymore. You won't find him anymore. Yeah. So,
which it's outdated. I mean, it was cutting edge in 1970. Yeah. So it's we're a smaller, more nimble organization. We're able to change with the threats that our kids are facing daily or weekly or yearly, and so we can make changes to our program. That's what makes us more successful.
So so speaking of ways to become successful, would you really quickly tell us, how can people reach out to you if they're looking to find you? How are parents going to find you? And by the way, do you offer any online training for people that are not local to you?
We're actually working on that right now. And so our curriculum is copyrighted, trademark. We're trying to get, funding together so we can grow our network across the country and actually have instructors from all over the country teach what we do. And, that way we turn that 28,000 kids that we've reached into 1 million or 10 million, because we have the blueprint. It's tried and true. And so we just need that help. And we need the people that might be afraid of guns to maybe, sit back for a second and just listen and open up their ears and understand that there is an organization that cares for their kids and wants to see their kids protected. And one thing I want to impress upon the parents here is you might not have guns. You might be afraid of guns, but don't think for a second that your kids can't be exposed somewhere else. And so, that's why, our programs for really every kid, we have an adaptive program. So we have, kids that have joined us that are blind. We've actually had, blind shooters, which is really, really spectacular. And we were working on translating our stuff into, Spanish, Japanese, Mandarin, Russian, because there's no educational opportunities for those kids. And so we have to reach every kid, not just the kids with guns in their home.
And that is so critical. I think far too many people don't give that any thought. They think, I protected my children. And in the way that they do that, they think that by not having a gun in their home, that they're going to prevent any issues, and they don't, they can put blinders on and not have to worry about it. But you never know. They go to a friend's house. There's other opportunities. And you're right. You need to teach the child, not simply think that you can put a bubble around them and that they're not going to ever need to know the information. So that is critical, and that is so important. So important.
Well, I think what's really important for you guys is right now there's a big push, because now there was a story, I don't know if you guys saw, out of Ohio, like last week, where they had a 1 minute clip that said that this 1 minute clip has actually helped keep kids safe from guns. And so now you're seeing, every town jump on board. And so they have a program, they call it quote unquote gun safety, but it's not gun safety. And their idea of gun safety is to keep your kids safe is you have to go get rid of your firearms if you have a firearm in the home to keep your kids safe. So that's not gun safety. Our guns are here. We have over 450 million guns in this country. There's 110 million lawful, responsible gun owners out there. And so we're not the problem here. We just need to coexist. And the powers that be would need to just kind of try something new. And that's my biggest thing here is we have something that we can invest in right now that would save more lives than anything that every town would ever propose. And we just need that opportunity.
Absolutely. And you brought up a great point that so many people are fearful of guns. And I imagine, I'm a trainer, and I imagine that you've come across the same thing as well, that when someone finally gets the courage, either whether it's through a dare or through force or just simply to solve a curiosity that they have, they come in fearful and they leave with knowledge, and that fear has turned to respect. And sometimes they actually really enjoy it and they come back and it turns into something that they enjoy. And sometimes they leave without a love for it, but they have an understanding. And when there's knowledge, that fear tends to go away. A lot of them, when they have fear of what they don't understand and what they don't know. And by teaching them, there's an empowerment that goes with that. And then that fear just tends to dissipate and go away. I don't know what your experience has been with that, but that's been my experience.
100% correct. And so that's the thing is when we pull the crowd. And so when we have people that come to a class, they raise their hand like, hey, we ask them, hey, does anybody have any guns in the home? And if there's ones that, don't have any firearms, we always welcome them because we're glad that you're here because, this message is really, really important for your kids. And there's so many kids that we meet at a young age they have this thirst for knowledge when it comes to firearms because they're seeing them in movies, they're seeing them on TV, they're seeing them in their video games. Mm-hmm. And so with, I call it gun curious, quote unquote, gun curious, because these kids just want to know. And so I'm glad that we have the opportunity to spend the hour with them. We get to make their parents feel a little bit more comfortable about guns. And a lot of times, they'll come back and they'll join us on the range. And so we're able to actually convert those people that were fearful into now we're on the range. Now we get to teach them how the process works, how the firing process works in a safe and controlled environment. And so this is a way that we provide extra value to society. And it's really incredible to watch.
Fantastic. I love it. And I've seen that play out so many times, and I've had all walks of life come in to work with me. I work with kids quite often. I work with families. I work with elderly. I worked with everybody, and across the spectrum, I've had similar outcomes to where they come in fearful, unsure, and they leave grateful and they have a respect. And so that's so critical. It's so important for the listeners out there that maybe if you're in that boat, if you're uncomfortable, you're unsure, if you've never taken a class or you're curious, I encourage you to go out there and to find a trainer in your area, find someone, work with them, get that knowledge, get that understanding, and you will see that it's not all that the media likes to portray it as, and you will leave with a whole new respect for it.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think the biggest advice I would give for parents is to turn off the news. Mm-hmm. And realize the source is propaganda, and it's not looking out for your best interest. And look at data. The numbers cannot lie. And look at the CDC, look at the FBI, the UCI, look at all this different stuff as opposed to, this cherry-picked information that's coming from certain organizations that profit off of these tragedies. And so just keep an open mind and educate yourself. And, we want to be a trusted resource for everybody across the country. And you guys can find us on our social media channels. We're always available if anybody has any questions. And that's the whole point, is just to kind of tear down these walls to make sure people feel empowered about this process. We want to empower our youth to make good, safe decisions. And so that's what we're about.
So, Derek, if people want to get that information, they want to reach out to you. So you mentioned social media. Give me all those details. What's your website? What's your social media? Go ahead and throw your phone number out there. How do people reach out to you?
Okay, so our website is kidssafefoundation.org. There's 2 S's there. You can look at it on our website. You can find our calendar. You can see a blog there. There's also a way for people to help support us, to help keep us going. We're also on YouTube. We have almost coming up on 200,000 subscribers on YouTube, so we do a lot of stuff there. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and X now. And, obviously the social media big tech giants have really throttled our reach. And so that's why we're so thankful to have this opportunity to talk to you guys, to kind of get outside of that wall of censorship.
Fantastic.
That's awesome. Great job, Derek. Love
Absolutely.
what you do.
Yeah. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, thanks for having us. And so one thing, my mission, our mission here is zero firearm accidents is the only acceptable goal. And so until we get to zero, we're going to continue to work.
Good fight.
Absolutely. Keep
Thank you, Derek.
it up.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool organization, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think they're doing a very good thing.
Right. Now all the rest of the states just need to accept him.
Well, they do, but we also need to get the law lifted. What is it?
AB 2571. And again, the AB 2571, it doesn't prevent, and that I think there's some misunderstanding there too. It doesn't prevent youth from being trained. It doesn't prevent youth coming and taking a course. Mm-hmm. It just makes it to where us trainers cannot promote or talk or discuss about the opportunities out there for youth. The families have to come to us.
Well, if they listen to this show, then they don't have to. They can just listen to our show.
It might be there's so many lawsuits that need to happen. That's the only thing that's preventing us from going after that right now. So anyway.
You will.
Thanks for watching this clip from Gun Owners Radio. If you're watching mainstream media, you're not getting the truth about guns. Gun Owners Radio is the easiest way to stay on top of the Second Amendment fight, the fight for your self-defense rights. You can watch our live stream on YouTube every Sunday from 4 to 6 p.m. California time, or if you're in San Diego, AM 1170, FM 96.1, The Answer. We're also available on your favorite podcast platform. Just search Gun Owners Radio and you'll find our show. Like and subscribe to help defend and restore the Second Amendment, not just in California, but across the country.